Thank you for staying tuned to Diamond TV. Welcome to this week's episode of The Digest. My name is Francesca. Now, did you know that one of Zambia's smallest national parks, situated on the southwestern edge of the Lake Bangweulu Basin, is the Kasanka National Park? Well, the Kasanka National Park was birthed off a community project called Kasanka Trust. Local farmers, community members, and a British expatriate came together to save a park that would have depleted due to poaching activities in the late 1980s. With perseverance and consistency, today the Kasanka National Park has over the years, in conjunction with the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Services, developed the site for tourism in partnership with the local people. However, Kasanka Trust has in the last couple of months been embroiled in a court battle concerning land encroachment. Once a year, between October and December, after having migrated for thousands of kilometers, the arrival of about 10 million fruit bats takes place at Kasanka National Park in northern Zambia. The incredible spectacle is known as the world's largest mammal migration. Kasanka employs up to 30 scouts to work with the Department of Parks and National Wildlife to provide law enforcement for the park, conducting regular patrols to remove snares and apprehend poachers. The law enforcement team also works with partners in surrounding communities to gather information on poaching and other illegal activities to try and keep one step ahead. Kasanka's contribution to the tourism sector over the years has increased.
Kasanka National Park is, if not the third smallest national park in this country, but very important. It's the only park in this world, planet Earth, that hosts the largest mammal migration of fruit-colored bats. So these bats come all over Africa to come and forage here. This is the major attraction that we have for this park. But more important, these bats are not insect bats. These are fruit bats who come here to eat fruits such as fungo, such as guavas, bananas, masuku, and everything. Meaning they can only come where there are trees that can bear fruits. And if you look at the ecosystem around here, it's a very good place for fruits. Now, any development that takes out this forage or trees puts a serious threat to the bat migration. For history's sake, bats have been seen here in the last 40 years, since 1970s and the like. Bats have been coming here. And this is the main economic drive for Chitambo. Before then, Kasanka Trust was the largest employer of the local people. But not only that, we have at least 4,000 bed nights that are sold here. And all this money goes to support conservation of Kasanka National Park. As you may be aware, Kasanka Trust is not for profit, so there is no shareholding, dividends sharing. Whatever money is raised from tourism goes back to support roads infrastructure, law enforcement, research, environmental education. So anything that is going to happen to stop the bat migration, that will be the beginning of the death of this park, because we do not have animals like Kafue National Park, South Ruangwa, that attracts people because of wildlife. If you look at our geology here, it's more swampy, meaning only animals that can survive in water bodies can be here. So you don't expect other species to be here who cannot stay in water bodies. So what remains important for Kasanka are the bats. And in the absence of the bats, this will be a terrible situation for Chitambo community who depends on their jobs here. In a very good year, tourism has brought $250,000. And we inject nearly 2.5 million kwacha on indirect costs around Chitambo community. And this is what they survive for. And if we take out the bats into this equation, rest assured this will be something else.
However, the Kasanka National Park status has been threatened by alleged land encroachment on the park. Kasanka Trust is embroiled in a legal battle regarding its boundaries.
Early 2018, we saw a massive cutting down of a big line in the western part of Kasanka National Park in Mapepala. And when we approached the developer, we were told their GOtv ventures are trying to put a game fence or a game farm around this area. That was the beginning of us seeing massive activities going on around the Kasanka National Park.
According to court documents obtained by Diamond TV's Digest team, Kasanka Trust as the first plaintiff, Eston Mwewa second plaintiff, suing as chairperson for Mapepala Community Forest Management Group, and Lefai Mokosha, third plaintiff, suing as chairperson for Nawoa's Forest Management Group, sued GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro Limited, where it asked the court to restrain the two companies on continuing cutting down trees, cultivation of crops, obstruction of water from the Luwombo River, construction works, fencing off for further developments in the Kafinda Game Management Area, also known as the Kafinda GMA. Kasanka Trust also sued Zambia Environmental Management Agency, Water Resources Management Authority, Chitambo District Council, the Commissioner of Lands, and the Attorney General, respectively. Kasanka National Park was seeking an order for an interim injunction directed at the GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro Limited. In the affidavit in support of the interim injunction sworn by Christopher Chisula C.K. Kangwa, it was deposed that Kasanka Trust has co-managed the Kafinda GMA together with the Department of National Parks and Wildlife since 1989, pursuant to a co-management agreement executed between itself and the government of the Republic of Zambia. Kasanka Trust, in partnership with Senior Chief Chitambo IV, supported the formation of two community forest management groups in Chitambo Chiefdom, namely Mapepala and Nawoa, which are both within Kafinda GMA. According to the affidavit, Kasanka Trust supports local farmers within the Kafinda GMA, and the trust has also been working together with the local leadership to manage and conserve the forestry resources in the community forests within the game management area.
So immediately we noticed that activity, we engaged our partners, the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, because it's a co-management arrangement, and they've got a mandate to ensure that the general management plan in the Kafinda game management area is followed. So they undertook a trip to meet GOtv Venture and Lake Agro to understand what was going on. Thereafter, we didn't see any action. Then we approached the Forest Department early 2019, and they issued the first stop order to these two developers to stop, and things never stopped to date.
Court documents obtained by Diamond TV's Digest team from January 2022 also revealed that GOtv Venture Limited was granted permission to set up a wildlife sanctuary in September 2018, and that the company has occupied more than 5,000 hectares of land located in the buffer zone of the Kafinda GMA, covering significant parts of the Mapepala and Nawoa community forest, thereby significantly encroached in the Kasanka National Park by fencing and introducing species of animals that are not native to that area. Further documents have revealed that GOtv Ventures has also cleared over 5 hectares of riparian waterberry trees in 200 meters stretch on both sides of the Luwombo River, thereby destroying a riverside habitat in the GMA's landscape. It has been deposed that GOtv Ventures has also constructed over 14 kilometers of wide gravel roads, an airstrip, and permanent dwelling structures within the area. It was further deposed that Lake Agro Limited has occupied and commenced large-scale commercial farming activities in part of the GMA and obtained leasehold titles for the same. In addition, the second defendant has cleared in excess of 860 hectares of native forest in the Kafinda GMA and diverted parts of the Luwombo River for its own use, and continues to obstruct large and unregulated quantities of water from the river to feed the 7 center pivots installed by them without any license or permit from the Water Resources Management Authority, WAMA. The court documents have further revealed between July 2019 and July 2021, the Ministry of Tourism and Arts and the Director of the Department of National Parks and Wildlife issued written orders to Lake Agro directing the company to halt its activities, but has neglected or failed to abide by the said directive. This was on the premise that the establishment of commercial agriculture in such an ecologically and climatically sensitive area could have potentially irreversible negative impact on the area. GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro filed an affidavit in opposition of the summons for an interim injunction sworn by the managing director of the two companies, Abdulaziz Ahmed Mohammed. Mr. Mohammed deposed that Lake Agro holds a certificate of title over the land that is subject of the Kasanka Trust application for injunction. Lake Agro was granted permission to undertake commercial activities on the land by appropriate authorities and has installed center pivots for irrigation. There are other farmers in the neighborhood who cultivate macadamia nuts and are in the business of cattle ranching. Mr. Muhammad deposed that the Kasanka Sanctuary is more than 7.5 kilometers from Lake Agro and as a result does not fundamentally support the Kasanka Trust application. He further deposed that Lake Agro would be prejudiced by the injunction sought as it would stop farming activities which are underway, and further that there will be lots of damage and loss of assets, and that GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro have been operating in their respective areas for over a year and have employed a total of over 180 local people who will be left destitute should the injunction be granted. The court agreed with counsel for the Kasanka Trust Limited and accordingly found that there was serious issue to be tried at trial when counsel for Kasanka National Park argued that there are serious questions to be tried as GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro encroaching on Kafinda GMA and that they are undertaking activities without lawful authority. On the question of adequacy of damages as a remedy, counsel for Kasanka National Park submitted that GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro have commenced and continue to engage in cutting down trees which threaten the ecological balance and biodiversity of Kafinda GMA, and that if they are not restrained, the damage on the environment will be irreparable and incapable of being atoned for in damages. In a court ruling by Judge Charles Kafunda, GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro Limited were in January restrained from further cutting down of trees, clearing vegetation, further construction works, fencing of or any other further activities or development on the land, and obstruction of water from the Luwombo River exceeding amounts stated in the water permit. Judge Kafunda, in granting the injunction, stated that the injunction on the circumstances will have the effect of protecting the environment from any further damage which was stated and cannot be atoned for by damages. The court was of the strong view that the Kasanka National Park is entitled to an order of an interim injunction until the rights of the parties have been properly and finally determined by the court. In affidavit in opposition filed in court, GOtv Venture and Lake Agro felt the injunction would be discriminatory considering that other farmers in the same line of business have not been cited. In June 2022, Kasanka Trust instituted contempt proceedings against GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro before the Lusaka High Court. According to documents obtained by Diamond TV, Kasanka Trust Limited filed into the High Court an affidavit verifying facts of the statement in support of ex parte summons for leave to commence committal proceedings for contempt of court. The affidavit was sworn by chairperson for the Board of Directors of Kasanka Trust Limited, Christopher Chisula. In his affidavit, Mr. Chisula deposed that despite the court ordering an injunction on GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro Limited, the defendants continued to cut down trees as evidence in the aerial views showing land use bordering Kasanka National Park captured by Frankfurt Zoology Society. On July 21st, Kasanka Trust filed a notice of motion for an order of committal proceedings for contempt of court and asked that the court commits the directors of GOtv Ventures and Lake Agro to jail for disobeying the court's order given on the 25th of January 2022. However, several months down the line, Kasanka National Park went back to the court and instituted contempt proceedings against the defendant. The court is yet to give a ruling on the contempt case and whether the matter will go to trial at this stage. The legal battle between Kasanka National Park and Lake Agro and GOtv Ventures is still before the courts, and Diamond TV is closely following the case. We will update you on the outcome. But for now, be sure to give us feedback by emailing us at documentaries@diamondtvzambia.com. From me and my production team, thank you for watching. Goodbye.